I don't even know how to communicate what I mean. Some things are just so blood curdling that your brain just says, I don't I don't even want to try to process that information. And that's how I've been feeling all day, because I made the mistake of going down the rabbit hole, and I walked away from it, and I shut it down. I was like, this is not doing my soul any good, this information. But then all day, it's like all day I just heard screams, like screams of babies, screams of children. And it's like, there are people on this planet that get excited and joyful from doing that to babies. And they are running the government, they are running industry, and they are walking scot-free. And this administration is protecting them. And I don't, there needs to, I heard Pam Ghislaine Bondi say that, well, we can't let all the names of the files come out, because that would tear the whole system down. Burn this motherfucker down. Burn it all down. Burn it all down. Whatever we got to do. Every one of them motherfuckers.
All right. We'll take that down. It's your boy Jay Taylor, Voices for the Voiceless. And I'm back with another video. Peace and blessings, everybody. Hope that everybody enjoying their morning. But yeah, man. And as the title says, the Epstein files exposes wings of the same bird. I'm gonna say this right here. I agree with everything that was Eric Bonet, by the way. You know, R&B singer, soul singer, legendary Eric Bonet. And I agree with his sentiments 100%. One thing I'm gonna tell you, man, if we got a situation where children are being hurt, innocent women and children, innocent people, period, but especially babies, and what has come out with these Epstein files, then hey, they all got to go. For real, for real. Now, these are still just allegations at the moment that's put on paper. And I did not even really touch the Epstein situation over here because I didn't like how it was being handled from day one. And for two, I never voted for the Epstein files. It was never none of my concern. When we talking about all this satanic ritual talk and they eating babies and things of that nature, you know, I haven't really been fooled. Who wants to hear that, right? So I haven't been really dealing with it. But since then, it's been coming out on the internet since they have dropped like 3 million files, and a lot of politicians, a lot of celebrities, a lot of just people that's in the White House as we speak in this administration. And don't get me wrong, you know what I'm saying? I still rock with the administration until, further notice. Now, what I do notice is that it's Democrats and Republicans that's wrapped off in this, and it seemed like they hiding and ducking from each other. You know what I'm saying? They covering for each other. You got Hakeem Jeffries, the Democratic leader for the House, coming up in the Epstein files. He just took money. Then you got Harry Lutnick, that's in the Trump administration, coming up in the files. I mean, it's insane. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, we're going to do a deep dive into this whole situation. And my thing is, what are the solutions? How can we deal with this and hold people accountable? Because if y'all could lock up P. Diddy, if y'all could lock up Big U for Rico racketeering, if y'all can lock up R. Kelly, then for surely y'all can get some of these people that are involved in this egregious allegations in this whole Epstein situation. For real, for real. Before we get into the commentary, and as always, I got to read this disclaimer for Fair Use Act. So let's get off into that. Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Allowances are made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use. All right. So we got that out the way. And this stuff right here, and like the book says, we battle not against flesh and blood, but the spiritual wickedness and evil in high places. When you got people walking the earth of this magnitude that will harm children and do rituals and eat babies and all this old crazy mess, we just got to keep a buck, man. It's like this is some the end of times type of talk. Like, what is really going on, man? This is spiritual wickedness at epic proportions. So we got to put on the full armor of God in these times. And we're going to dive right off into it. And let's just recap some of the stuff that came out in these files. And let me get this up here. And I'm going to stop and react to some of this commentary here.
The files also include a diary from a woman who says she gave birth to Epstein's child around 2002.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're examining the newest Epstein files release and the uncomfortable questions it raises about accountability.
Do you think you're the devil himself? No, but I do have a good mirror.
A data dump unlike any other, over 3 million pages released.
Today's release marks the end of a very comprehensive document identification and review process to ensure transparency to the American people.
In a letter to Congress, Blanche and Attorney General Pam Bondi acknowledged approximately 200,000 pages have been redacted or withheld based on various privileges.
If you thought the Epstein case had already given up its secrets, the January 30th, 2026 release proved otherwise. The Department of Justice published over 3 million responsive pages in a single tranche, bringing the total disclosed under federal transparency law to nearly 3.5 million pages. That includes investigative records, internal correspondence, scheduling material, and metadata from multiple agencies, along with more than 2,000 videos and 180,000 images.
These messages from 2013 show Epstein connecting New York Giants co-owner Steve Tisch with various women. In one exchange, Tisch asked about a woman only identified as M, writing, "Curious to know about M, pro or civilian."
The sheer scale changes how the case is understood. This is no longer just a criminal dossier. It's a sprawling administrative archive that documents how law enforcement, prosecutors, and institutions interacted with Epstein for decades.
Can you assure the American public that President Trump, like every other prominent person whose name came up in relation to the Epstein files, that all documents, photos, and anything relevant to him connected to the case are being released.
I mean, yes, I can assure that we complied with the statute, we complied with the act, and there is no, we did not protect President Trump, we didn't protect or not protect anybody.
Legal compliance achieved, but full transparency is still elusive.
We have released, there are a small number of documents, as I said on Friday, that we're waiting for a judge to say we're allowed to release because of a protective order. But this review is over. I mean, we reviewed over 6 million pieces of paper, thousands of videos, tens of thousands of images, and which is what the statute required us to do.
Officially, the Justice Department insists it has complied with the Epstein Files Transparency Act. But critics argue that legal compliance is not the same thing as meaningful transparency. While the documents are technically searchable and downloadable, their volume, inconsistent formatting, and lack of narrative context make real analysis daunting. Lawmakers and watchdog groups have accused the DOJ of creating, quote, obfuscation by scale, where overwhelming quantity substitutes for clarity.
Leadership on the Hill, Congressman Massey, Senator Schumer, are quick to complain. There is no way they have spent any time looking at the materials we produce, because I know the materials we produce them on Friday. By Saturday, they're already complaining about what we did.
Others point out that millions of pages were deemed responsive, yet not all were released, raising questions about what standards were used and who decided. The result is a disclosure that satisfies the letter of the law, while still frustrating the public's demand for straightforward answers.
We have nothing to hide. We never did. And our doors are open if they want to come and review any of the materials that we produced.
Redaction break.
But I'll say this. And once again, this is not an issue that I voted for, but the Trump administration is the only administration that is actually bringing this information forward. We wouldn't even have these 3 million documents to review at this point, right? So we have to keep that in mind, and it's interesting to see the fallout behind this, as Trump, to me, from what I've seen and what I've heard, that him and Epstein had a falling out. Epstein was staying in Mar-a-Lago. Trump got word that he was doing some creepy stuff, and he kicked him out back 15, 20 years ago for, these type of allegations, messing with young girls and young ladies and all of that on some creep type stuff. And then come to find out in the files that they did not like each other at all. And mind you, Jeffrey Epstein wasn't just a creep. So a lot of people are going to be in the files because he was conducting business, so just because somebody met him or been to his island, or, we got to keep that in mind too. People overreacting with, oh, you in the files. That don't necessarily mean you did anything criminal, right? Because this man was in, corporate America, at a high level, doing business with billionaires and millionaires. So he was into politics. He had a wide range of resources and knew a lot of people in other countries. So just because you in the files don't necessarily mean that you are guilty of a crime. So we have to really look at that. We got a lot of different elements like statute of limitations, and when they go over these files and they making mistakes, and just know that's 3 million pieces of paper. So mistakes may be made. You know what I'm saying?
Breakdown exposed victims.
Your release on Friday has already received a response from the victims, from Jeffrey Epstein's victims. I want to show the statement right now. It says survivors are having their names and identifying information exposed.
One of the most damaging aspects of the rollout had nothing to do with powerful names and everything to do with victims. Despite assurances of rigorous review, redaction failures allowed documents to go live containing names, contact information, and financial details linked to survivors.
The federal agency had to remove the documents from its site yesterday because some reveal the names of victims. Attorneys for survivors say the Justice Department failed to redact the identities of at least 31 people who were victimized as.
Now, these are the type of mistakes you can't make. You got victims out here that was, their name was exposed, their information. So you got all these powerful people that feel like they might get them locked up. Now they name in some files. Like, come on, Pam Bondi, like you can't be making them type of. You redacting all the people that was implicated in crimes, but you forgot to redact the actual victims. We got to protect the victims, that. So that was a slip up on the DOJ on that.
Children. Some of those victims now say they're being harassed through private messaging.
The DOJ was forced to pull thousands of files offline to correct the errors, but the exposure had already occurred. Victim advocates condemned the mishandling, arguing that transparency should never come at the cost of re-traumatizing survivors. Beyond the human toll, the episode shattered confidence in the release process itself.
The files may have inadvertently included victim identifying information due to various factors, including technical or human error. Multiple survivors calling for the takedown, writing the DOJ committed what may be the single most egregious violation of victim privacy in one day in United States history.
The files are crowded with global power brokers.
I have to acknowledge the elephant in the room at this moment. Your ex-husband, Bill, is named in the newest.
Now, this Bill Gates' ex-wife. He in the files.
Tranche of Epstein files. And there are a new alleged details about his past behavior. And I want to give you the opportunity to respond in whatever way you want to.
As soon as researchers and journalists began digging in, one thing became clear. Epstein's reach was vast. The files repeatedly reference figures from finance, technology, politics, and royalty, appearing in emails, calendars, invitations, and internal notes. Importantly, inclusion does not equal guilt. The DOJ has been explicit that many names appear incidentally or through third-party claims.
Another person that has come out in these new documents is Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick. He and his family, it looks like, spent time on the island with Epstein. Also, he appears to have had a lunch with Epstein.
Now, Howard Lutnick is in Trump administration. I like Howard Lutnick, but he lied and said he ain't spend no time with Epstein, but he come up in the files. See, I'm gonna call a spade a spade. You know what I'm saying? What you lying for, bro? Like, you in the files. Nice seeing you, but you ain't spend no time with him. Come on, man. You got some explaining to do. Wings of the same bird. Democrats and Republicans are all in here. Politicians, foreign leaders, the most wealthiest people in the world, y'all still walking. If these crimes or alleged crimes are true, you mean to tell me you still could just walk around? If nothing don't happen to come from this, what does that say? These people could just do this stuff allegedly and get away with it. But if we so much as sneeze wrong, they want to throw the book at us, regular folk. Come on, man.
Epstein, someone wrote back on the behalf of Epstein and said it was nice to see him, to Howard Lutnick. Lutnick's response was, I spent zero time with him.
Still, the density of influential figures paints a disturbing picture of access. Epstein wasn't operating on the fringes. He was circulating through elite networks with ease, even after his 2008 conviction. The real shock isn't that powerful names appear. It's how normalized Epstein's presence seemed to be in rooms where influence is exercised.
And what's striking about all of this is, once again, we have seen over and over very high-profile, powerful men who...
Look at that, man. What was that, Bill Clinton? That was Bill.
Once again, we have seen over and over very...
Yeah, look at this. Bill Clinton. They say he up in the Epstein files so much. They got him in a dress on a painting or something like that. Like, I mean, just weirdo activity, bro. Weirdo activity. Like, what y'all got going on? It's crazy, man. Let's continue.
Very high profile, powerful men who have continued to say that they had no relationship, no connection to Jeffrey Epstein, but clearly with these millions of files that we continue to see released, they tell a very, very different story.
Epstein actively courted access to top political power players.
The DOJ also posted, then temporarily removed without explanation, a spreadsheet of complaints made to the FBI, including unverified allegations about both President Trump and former President Bill Clinton. Per the document, the FBI determined some of those claims were found to be not credible.
The documents reinforce a long suspected pattern. Epstein actively pursued proximity to political power. Emails and scheduling records show repeated efforts to arrange introductions, maintain relationships, and present himself as useful to decision makers. This wasn't social climbing by accident. It was strategy.
The files also show that Epstein repeatedly took the fifth during a 2016 deposition when asked more than a dozen questions about former President Clinton. Among them, several about whether Mr. Clinton visited Epstein's private island and flew in his private plane.
Epstein cultivated the appearance of relevance, positioning himself as a connector, donor, or source of insight. That perception mattered. When someone appears adjacent to presidents, ministers, or senior officials often enough, institutions begin to treat them cautiously, sometimes deferentially. The files don't prove a single political conspiracy. What they do show is how sustained access can discourage scrutiny. Epstein's greatest shield wasn't secrecy. It was the assumption that someone so connected must already be vetted.
When they go ahead, reporters and high-profile people, trust me, they knew these weren't secrets. They not only knew it socially, they knew it because people do their research. And yet they continued to pass that aside. So if people are embarrassed or held to task right now because their names are there and their own emails in their own words are there, they should have to answer for that association. Absolutely.
The 2007 case that never happened.
The Justice Department has released 3 million documents and photos connected to Jeffrey Epstein. A drafted indictment that was never filed is included in the release. It accuses Epstein and 3 unnamed defendants of conspiring to traffic 19 young girls from 2001 to 2005.
The new 7 scratch-offs are here with prizes up to $570,000. Up next, the weather.
The new 7 scratch-offs are here! We're gonna need more 7s.
Come out to play with the Hoosier Lottery, champions of play.
The Silverado EV was built to get things done with over 600 horsepower and 700 pound-feet of.
Among the most consequential revelations is documentation from 2007, when federal investigators drafted a prosecution memo and proposed indictment that were never pursued. These records suggest authorities once considered a broader case than the narrow resolution that ultimately emerged. While the files don't spell out why the effort stalled, their existence confirms that the limited outcome wasn't inevitable.
Instead of bringing the indictment, federal prosecutors reached a non-prosecution agreement with him in 2007, and through it, he avoided federal charges and served.
Man, this dude messing around with allegedly a 14-year-old or something like that, 14-year-old, multiple 14-year-olds, and got a sweetheart deal the first time around. I think that was, who was in office at the time? Was it George Bush or it was either Bush or Obama or one of them? And he got a sweetheart deal where he could go to jail for the week, then come home on weekends, and it was just like, but hey man, y'all lock us up. If we whistle at a 14-year-old, we going under the jail, bro. But this dude sitting up here, man, got out that jam with a sweetheart deal and was still running a organization to this magnitude, doing all this dirt, allegedly.
Served 13 months in state prison.
There was a moment when the system appeared poised to go further. Instead, the case was scaled back, and Epstein went on to re-enter elite society. The question the files raise is simple and uncomfortable. What might have been prevented if that earlier path had been taken?
Epstein recruited girls to engage in sex acts with him, after which he would give the victims hundreds of dollars in cash, and paid some victims to recruit additional girls to be similarly abused.
When you saw him, it just brought back bad memories?
Yeah, it brought back the last time I saw him, which was right there at the massage table.
Files surface claims of Epstein's secret children.
Among the most shocking are messages and diary entries suggesting Epstein may have secretly fathered children. A 2011 email from Sarah Ferguson, the ex-wife of Prince Andrew, congratulated Epstein on his baby boy, saying she had heard the news from Andrew. Even though you never kept in touch, I am still here with love, friendship, and congratulations on your baby boy, Ferguson wrote.
Few revelations traveled faster than an apparent 2011 message linked to Sarah Ferguson congratulating Epstein on a supposed, quote, baby boy. The document's inclusion ignited speculation overnight, blending tabloid intrigue with genuine confusion.
She describes the birth and includes a 20-week ultrasound scan, alleging that the baby was taken at birth under the supervision of Ghislaine Maxwell. She was born, I heard her cries, the diary reads. I saw this tiny head and body in between the doctor's hands. Ghislaine said she was beautiful. Where is she?
But the facts are far less explosive. Epstein's brother, Mark Epstein, has publicly denied that Epstein had any children, and no verified DNA evidence supports the claim. The shock lies not in confirmation, but in exposure. When millions of pages are released at once, context collapses. The files don't prove Epstein had a secret child. They prove how easily a document can outpace the truth.
There is no independent confirmation that Epstein had children, but the allegations echo earlier reports that he planned to impregnate women at his New Mexico ranch to seed the world with his DNA.
What are you, class 3 sexual predator?
Tier 1.
Was tier 1's the highest and worst?
No, I'm
the lowest.
I'm the lowest.
You're the lowest. Okay, tier 1, you're the lowest.
Previously undisclosed emails link Epstein and Elon Musk.
One of those names is the world's richest man, Elon Musk. He's always denied any close relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. But they exchanged numerous emails trying to arrange a visit for Musk to Epstein's island in the Caribbean. And one of them, Musk goes on to write this: what day, night will be the wildest party on your island?
The tech world's attention zeroed in on newly released emails showing Epstein attempting to draw Elon.
As you can see, man, this is bad. Real bad. I'm gonna stop that one right there. But this is bad, bro. You know what I'm saying? We got a little bit of everybody involved in this. And from my perspective, it seems like they covering up for everybody. Because where are the arrests? Where are the investigations? Well, to be fair, we have to keep in mind that federal investigations do take years sometimes. It's something of this magnitude. The Trump administration only been in office for a year. And they had to get their feet wet, and there's other things going on. So it's gonna take, I mean, they really gonna need 2 terms to like really deal with this. To go through everything. It's impossible to do this in 4 years and go after everybody in the judicial system the way that you would really have to sink your teeth in a case like this to really get to the bottom of it. But I want to bring up another video that shows the disgusting allegations in more detail. And I just I couldn't stomach it if I tried to. This is just something I don't really want to be feeding my spirit with. But for the sake of argument, I'm like, man, I gotta speak on this so people will know how I feel about this situation. And no, I don't think Trump himself is wrapped off into anything nefarious with Jeffrey Epstein, because they was beefing. And you know, to be honest with you, it came out in the files that he was the only one Well, the first one to that was a billionaire that was in that type of space to alert the authorities. He was the first one to snitch on Jeffrey Epstein. I would even go as far as to say Trump might have been a federal informant for the FBI, and this is prior to him becoming the president. He told on Epstein back in like 2009, 2010 or something like that. Maybe even 08. So they been had they falling out. Yeah, he been told the authorities what was going on. So I really don't think, and Trump the only one that was bringing this to the table. So I don't think Trump got nothing to do with Epstein or whatever going on. They probably did some business and real estate together. And that's probably why his name coming up in the file so much. But yeah, without further ado, man, we got to listen at this craziness. But before we do, I have to say, people in Trump's administration, though, you know what I'm saying? There's a few people in his administration that got some explaining to do. They on the island and all that, you know? So they got a little explaining to do when it comes to that. But in any event, listen at this.
People going crazy think they found a code word for human meat? Wait, what? Hope you are feeling better. Did we analyze the jerky? Why didn't we get jerky this week? I also added more to the jerky and ginger lemongrass. Thank you so much. Super cool. Beef jerky, delicious. Jojo is here and we'll walk the jerky over to Jeffrey. We'll walk the jerky over to Jeffrey. Why would jerky walk around? Why would it do that? Delicious lunch, beef jerky. Steve and I are very grateful, above all, for your friendship. Some of these emails are so wholesome, aren't they? It's too bad they eat kids. A small insulated bag would be fine. I don't recommend checking it. No need for crazy amounts of ice.
So the code word for babies and eating babies is jerky. This is some of the disgusting allegations that are coming up in these files. You know what I'm saying? Like, I couldn't sit back and read none of this mess ad nauseum. I just can't put this in my spirit like that. People, if you are reading these Epstein files, you got to put on the full armor of God, pray before and after you read these files. Because your mental health is at stake reading this. This is inconceivable. Now, we've heard about satanic rituals and Bohemian Grove and the Baphomet and people doing blood sacrifices. This is what they talking about at its highest level. Pam Bondi, Attorney General Pam Bondi, came out and said, if they prosecute everybody involved, the whole system would collapse. That's insane, bro. You got people that names are being redacted that are talking about eating babies. Like they give them some type of supernatural power if they consume a baby. All these missing children in the world. You mean to tell me, is this where they disappear to? Something got to shake with this, bro. Like, why would you bring this to the forefront and don't nothing happen? Trump got 4 years to make something shake with this. But you got to move fast. Because, this can't keep going on. Y'all got the names, man. Hey, let it burn, like Everett Benet said earlier in this video, man, if you got to.
One should do. There is one bag of beef jerky in the fridge. Please get it. Also, Blank has more at her place. Please get it from her as well. I suppose it needs to be in a cold, insulated bag. Just wanted to touch base about jerky. J.E. said he was going to start eating regular food again, so he might be eating less jerky. He said he has 6 bags of it in the downstairs freezer. Why would you freeze jerky? Steve needs a 6 to 8 ounce portion of jerky. I gave you all the jerky we had, and it lasted only half the amount of time it was meant to. I felt like it was more important for you to have the jerky to eat during my time off. My plan is to make a batch before I leave for LSJ, and some of that will go to Steve, and the rest will go to you at LSJ when I arrive. Little St. James Island. And that's what LSJ must mean. So logically, that means that they were doing this off of the island. Steve Hansen is sending jerky to your attention overnight. I believe it should be enough to get him through. Jeffrey Epstein is asking to bring him more jerky. I'm flying in on Friday. I will bring jerky. Is there a time I could come say hi and drop off the beef jerky? And that's from Jeffrey Epstein. Francis has time to come tomorrow. Show me how to make it. Jerky class anyone. He will bring you to taste his new jerky recipe from the restaurant. He sends a warm hello. He's working at a restaurant called guys, the restaurant's called Cannibal and Cooks. Wait for it. Beef jerky and steak. Can blank make some jerky? I think we should landscape all around the house to use the water if possible.
This is disgusting. You know, and I don't want to even keep going with this, man. I don't want to put y'all through this because I don't even want to hear no more. You know what I'm saying? Like, but you see the type of allegations that's being levied in this Epstein files. It's messy, right? And to me, it was just like the Twilight Zone. When I seen how they were handling, Pale Bonnie was talking about this on the files were on the desk, and then they weren't available, and you know, it was just like this is a distraction. But since then, the allegations have gotten so egregious that it's just we can't ignore it anymore. I can't. Who can ignore this? So we got Trump here that gave a statement, one of many statements. So let's see what the president has to say about all this stuff, real briefly. Let's go.
What did you think of the latest release of Epstein files, and do you think your critics will be satisfied with?
Well, they should be, because it looked like this guy Wolf, was a writer, was conspiring with Epstein to do harm to me. And I didn't see it myself, but I was told by some very important people that not only does it absolve me, it's the opposite of what people were hoping, you know, the radical left. That Wolf was a third-rate writer, was conspiring with Jeffrey Epstein to hurt me, politically or otherwise, and that came through loud and clear. So we'll probably sue Wolf on that. And maybe the Epstein estate, I guess. I don't know, but we're going to certainly sue Wolf.
You want to sue the Epstein estate?
Well, you may, I guess so, because he was conspiring with Wolf to do harm to me politically.
Okay, so you see that right there, right? So they was clearly not friends. And if you think about it, if Trump was responsible for telling the police on Epstein, then Epstein would have beef. Like, man, you gonna snitch on me? And they say Trump was the only one that did. And we have whoever Wolf is, you know what I'm saying? Like, see, I haven't read the files. I've been seeing clips here and there. You know, it just ain't my thing, you know what I'm saying? But other content creators have been very thorough with it. But all of this going on, man, it's just like, what can be done? You know, what can be done? Because, I mean, legally, because people really want to take to the streets. You know what I'm saying? So I got a good video here that has a federal investigator being interviewed of 20 years that is giving his expertise on what could be done, how this may plan out, because these people need to be prosecuted, and we really need to know how this would look in a court of law, right? So let me blow that up. This is fair use. Shout out to Straight to the Point with Catherine Herridge. So let's react to this video. and see what can be done.
This week on Straight to the Point, the Epstein files fallout. After the Justice Department released more than 3 million pages of investigative materials, can there still be accountability for the powerful and influential who moved in Jeffrey Epstein's orbit? The biggest case so far is Ghislaine Maxwell, who was convicted of conspiring with Epstein to sexually abuse minors. She has denied the allegations and sought to overturn her conviction. We asked a veteran federal investigator to explain the challenges for today's FBI, the Justice Department, and what are realistic expectations in the Epstein case. So let's get straight to the point. When the public reads these files, they feel kind of sick. I think that's a natural response. And then they ask, how come nothing was done about it? Or can something be done about it now? How would you respond as a seasoned federal investigator?
Well, I would. Their reaction is appropriate. It's sickening, the things that have occurred, and the other question is, why hasn't anything been done? Going after him the way it would be for anybody else could have opened a Pandora's box and a national security and global issue that we've really never seen politically, and or really any time in history. I would just tell people that you have to look at the totality of this. You may want this released, you may want something to occur, but there's obviously something more here than just a criminal who was supplying women and drugs to the powerful and the elite.
This week, Ghislaine Maxwell, who was convicted.
And that's a good point. This way bigger than Jeffrey Epstein. Like, and that's another thing that's fishy to me. Like, whenever you got a situation where they putting too much emphasis on one individual, it's always more to it, right? It's like y'all trying to, virtue signal with Epstein like he just the devil. But you got all these different people that's wrapped off into this spider web of corruption and just sick behavior. Y'all trying to, that's why I named this Wings of the Same Bird, because it's very political. And you got people on both Republican and Democrat covering for each other. That's the truth. Now I'm gonna say this. You got the Democrats, liberals, whatever, and then you got Trump and you got MAGA, separate from the, traditional Republican Party. Trump and his MAGA is, to me, basically an independent political platform. MAGA is an independent political platform that is using the Republican platform, you know what I'm saying, because it's more in alignment with his policies. But a lot of Republicans don't really, what we would call traditional Republicans, rhino Republicans, they don't necessarily like Trump any more than the Democrats do. Let's be honest and real about that. So he has to, maneuver through this political proxy, this political maze to get things accomplished. You got to know how to maneuver through manure. You feel me? But let's continue.
Of conspiring with Jeffrey Epstein to sexually abuse minor women is going to be deposed by the House Oversight Committee. What do you think the prospects are as a seasoned investigator that she provides new evidence?
So I think you're going to get a limited amount of information. She may even come there and plead the fifth, but I just do not think it's going to be groundbreaking when she comes there and testifies. Any information that she has that's groundbreaking is probably going to be done one-on-one with an investigator, not in front of a committee or anything like that.
I want to talk about Prince Andrew and their emails, which refer to this very famous picture of Prince Andrew with Virginia Giuffre. And he repeatedly argued that it was maybe a fake picture, it had been photoshopped. And now we see in the emails, there's a line that says the picture was taken as...
Yeah, Prince Andrew in the Epstein file. Man, this is crazy.
I imagine, the writer, that Virginia wanted to show it to her friends and family. Does this open up new lines of inquiry with Prince Andrew?
I think if other information points back to him, it'll give more credibility to looking at him as a potential subject of other crimes. But I think when we look at this specific thing that he's been accused of, I think in the court of public opinion, it's going to be huge. But I think in a court of law, because the statute of limitations have passed on these types of crimes, I don't think it's going to make much difference. I don't see anything coming out of this because of the.
See, this is what I was fearing about this situation. What he's saying, I don't really see nothing coming out of this. If you listen to what he's a federal investigator of 20 plus years. He know how this works. The statute of limitations, things of that nature. Now, when it comes down to unalivings and stuff like that, certain things don't have statute of limitations. It's ain't no statute of limitations to that. But if it's just, what the allegations are about as far as, him, with young girls and things like that. But as far as these babies and all that and these rituals, y'all can get to the bottom of that. Because if it's babies being unalived and all of that, that don't have no statute of limitations. But see, it's like they covering for each other. And that's what I don't like. Because a lot of this is involving both parties. And it's like they covering for each other. But they play this game on the television screen, wings of the same bird, it's all a distraction. Now, this is not when they say wings of the same bird, this is a prime example. And this why, when you dealing with politics, man, you got to take your emotions out of it. When you look at a candidate versus another candidate, you can't look at it through an emotional lens. You got to look at it like, okay, what is their policy? What is their policy? What is his policy versus his? What more aligns with what I could benefit from? I don't care if they racist. I don't care if they sexist. I don't care about none of that. What can I get out of this candidate that I can't get out of that candidate that can help benefit me? That's how you vote. It don't matter who you like or who you don't like. Get out your feelings. Think about what I can't tell you who to vote for, but think about who can best benefit you. Always look at policy. I don't care if it's local. I don't care if it's state. I don't care if it's federal. And we need to get involved on all levels because these people are the people that are making decisions that affect our lives. So we have to be engaged in the political process. Otherwise, we don't count. And if we could get two political parties, the Democrats and the Republicans, to compete for our vote, then we are in a position of power to implement policies that we deem fit for our community. So anybody saying that, I don't do politics, that's foolish if you don't, because this affects your life in a real way.
Legal ways that they can skirt around the issues or get out of any further investigation.
There's another email here that suggests that Prince Andrew allegedly caused harm to one or more women. As a federal investigator, could that be pursued at this point?
It depends on what harm means. I mean, death, then there is no statute of limitations on that. But as we've seen, as surprising as it is, sexual assault does have a statute of limitation. So it would depend on time and the veracity of the crime. If this was a regular case and I was a case agent, regardless of whether the statute of limitations have passed, I would still investigate that fully because it may lead to other crimes and other perpetrators of crimes. So you can develop, this is obviously bigger than just Jeffrey Epstein.
There's another document in the Epstein files, and it relates to Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. There are allegations that young girls were in fact buried on one of his properties, or even lists of videos. Could that be investigated at this stage?
That could absolutely be investigated. There is no statute of limitations on that. And then also, if they have testimony or some type of witness saying that that is where they were killed, they can then go out and do a search and potentially find a body. It's going to be difficult years later to prove something like sexual assault, but if you can find the evidence that somebody was killed, that's totally different. And again, there's no statute of limitations. But see, this is also, Catherine, why you don't just say, oh, that crime that person committed is dropped off. We're not going to investigate that any further, because you never know who these loop back around to. Because if this was a society of people abusing women, then, and some of them died, you really don't know who was connected to them. So that's and who has knowledge of that. So that's why you would continue to look into all these different subjects.
Well, what I'm hearing you say is that you want to run down all of these leads, even if the statute of limitations has expired on a particular crime, because it will help you understand the community of individuals and whether there was, in fact, a conspiracy. And it's
They're having a very good conversation, because even though that it just examining the mind of a federal investigator and how they operate. We know we ain't got no case due to a statute of limitations involving this particular individual, but we'll still continue our investigation, because even though we can't probably bring them on charges, the investigation may open up leeway for something else to be, pursuable. You know what I'm saying? See, this is very good information here.
an ongoing conspiracy. This email with allegations that young girls were murdered and buried on Epstein's property, does that look like blackmail to you?
It looks like it could be any of several things. It could be blackmail. It could also be that somebody had some type of information and they wanted to make it known somewhere along the way that they had nothing to do with that. We've seen that in other cases where they send an email to somebody just so it can be known that we know that this occurred, but we didn't have anything to do with it. So there's different ways. I don't think.
Man, that sounds like they knew the feds was watching. They gonna send an email to let y'all know that they ain't got nothing to do with nothing. Yeah, they knew y'all was watching, or they was working with y'all. For real, like, you gonna send an email like, oh yeah, who just, separating yourself from any involvement.
I think there's enough evidence at this point for me to say blackmail or not, but is there a possibility? Of course, there's the possibility.
As an investigator, though, give people an idea of how hard it would be to track down a lead like this so many years after the fact.
Nowadays, it would be totally different because of technology. But in the past, once a certain amount of time and space distances somebody from a crime, it becomes exponentially harder to connect that person with that crime. But again, we keep going back to this. If there's other people and other testimonies, then you can start to link together the overall picture, the totality of the circumstances that surround these types of issues like murder. This is
sound like a conspiracy. Rico, like, oh yeah, we could tie in all this other stuff and create a conspiracy. Feds love conspiracy charges.
a huge spider web, and investigators should not just stop because of a statute of limitations or because they don't think it was a bad crime. If somebody is nefarious enough to do these things, then there's a chance they may have more information because they're involved in nefarious activity.
Is it fair to assess that because the technology has changed, AI and other machine learning tools, that the FBI is really in a much better position today than even 5 years ago to see if crimes can still be pursued?
This is where AI can help tremendously. Technology can help because it can go through and look for patterns, look for types of wording or even crimes that it could recognize, and then help them gather this information together. Again, remember, we're looking at millions of documents and years that have passed. So any type of technology that helps close those gaps will speed up the process as the Bureau goes through this. So yeah, it could be greatly beneficial.
There are emails with or about the Rothschilds, one of the most famous and richest families in the world. There are also audio recordings with a former Israeli Prime Minister, Ehud Barak. Epstein says to him, make a list of who owes you favors.
Who has IOUs to you? Is that out of the people in the past who you think you're close to? This person owes me a favor. This person owes me his life.
And they're pictures of politicians, in one case, a British politician in his underwear. Looking at these records, does it look like Jeffrey Epstein was engaged in an intelligence collection operation?
I think there's no doubt. I think the totality of circumstances, one, show that he was connected to people that are way above a normal individual that may be trafficking women or drugs. That's the first and foremost, because he didn't just go after a famous person. He went after people, or he had connections to people that had connections to national security or huge technological advances. An intel operation would greatly benefit and be able to not only understand what other world leaders are doing, but be able to influence what they're doing.
A lot of these famous, influential people are still alive. How would you, as a federal investigator, probe whether there are crimes that can still be prosecuted?
In this case,
excellent question. I really like how she's conducting this interview. People that we know that are still walking around, that are involved allegedly in these activities, what can be done? You know what I'm saying? Because if children are involved, that's a different conversation, man. You know, if you got any type of heart, vulnerable people that can't defend themselves being preyed upon, it just does something to you. So I want to see how he answers this.
Case, when the United States is dealing with other nations on a global national security scale, I think that myself as an investigator, I would not be able to lead this investigation. I just would not be able to say that this is a crime, we need to go after this individual. It's so high. And these people, this is not a conspiracy. You look at the list of these people. There is no way that an investigator in the FBI or just an attorney in the DOJ could say, yes, a crime is here, let's go after him. This has huge political ramifications and global ramifications. And that is way above a typical criminal and way above the decisions that even a supervisor in the FBI would make.
There's an FBI 302 in the Epstein file.
So basically, from what I'm gathering, it's like ain't nothing really gonna happen, bro. Ain't nothing finna shake. And that's why I ain't want to get wrapped off into this, because it's too many powerful people, too many powerful players in the game. Ain't too much finna shake. You might get one or two people that's low-hanging fruit, so to speak, that might get wrapped off in something. But the real deal, big dogs, they ain't finna catch no smoke behind this, bro. Unfortunately. The real movers and the shakers, the people that's orchestrating this demonic, satanic, child abduction, and, only thing it's gonna do is piss you off and have your mental on where it don't need to be, just following this Epstein thing. I'm just keeping it a real little bit. I couldn't sit back and hear about children being harmed all day. Whether these allegations are true or false, That's just not something I want to feed my spirit, but I felt it was imperative to make this video, because maybe it might give some more answers or just give people a different viewpoint, on how to cope with what you're listening to. Because the average person, they don't want to hear nothing about it's going to affect them to hear about children being harmed, babies.
Files. An FBI 302 is a summary of an interview, and there are a number of allegations against Harvey Weinstein and Beyonce's husband. Are these leads that would have to be followed up, or are they considered confirmed information?
They could.
So now they got Jay-Z wrapped off in this. Harvey Weinstein and Sean Carter. Jesus Christ.
Could be leads that would be followed up, but there would be follow-up 302s to those leads. So that is information coming in, and then it is officially entered into the case file. So then if it has to be followed and leads have to be pursued, those will generate other 302s.
Okay, so it's an incomplete picture that we have here, at least with this FBI record.
It is a portion of information that we're putting into the file. That's basically what it is.
These files have caused a lot of humiliation and a lot of sadness for very high-profile figures and their families. I think you immediately think of Bill Gates. His wife has said publicly now that this was a chapter of terrible sadness in her life. And I believe Gates has said that he regrets all the time he spent with Jeffrey Epstein. If you were handed the Bill Gates records, how would you tackle it as a seasoned investigator?
Well, I'd be looking at the nature of the person. Who is this individual? What type of nature does he have? What crimes has he committed? Or are they just crimes of character, not of law?
Well, just to be clear, Bill Gates has not been charged or convicted of any crimes. We're just talking about what the approach would be given the new evidence or the newly available information that is in these files. Another record that caught our attention was a laundry list of recreational drugs. They look like party drugs. It's Xanax, Valium, ketamine, Vicodin, so painkillers, oxycodone. See here, like drug trafficking, anything else like that?
I mean, it could be drug trafficking, especially if the witnesses that were sexually assaulted say that they were given a certain drug, which we do see. If that drug is on that list and it corresponds with that time, that could lead investigators down that path. But not just Jeffrey Epstein, but anybody who was supplying those things for him, knowing that it was not for, an issue for himself, that's illegal. I'm not sure how far they're really looking into this completely because of the ramifications of the people who are involved.
People with a lot of power, a lot of influence, even people who were in the orbit or were world leaders themselves.
Correct.
A search of the Justice Department files online turn up hits for Bill and Hillary Clinton in the Epstein files and Donald Trump. As an investigator, what's the impact on Bill and Hillary Clinton?
Well, I look at all these people and look at what the hits were, if they were communications that spoke about specific things, what their overall relationship was, where they visited, how they basically developing a pattern of the relationship between these people. I mean, look, there's probably tons of names that are mentioned thousands of times because he had communications with all these very powerful people. It doesn't mean that all of them were involved in crimes. President Trump is always going to take huge reputation hits by the left, no matter what. In this circumstance, he's taken huge hits from supporters, actually, because of this and the way the information has been handled.
As a seasoned federal investigator, was it reasonable? Was it justified to release these Epstein files?
I don't think justified is any reason. I just don't feel like any of this stuff should be out if there's still a case here.
For investigators, there are so many challenges in the Epstein case, from the statute of limitations, which means that too much time has passed to prosecute a crime, to private settlements with victims that are under seal, among other issues. And then there's the political fallout. We felt it was important to take on the Epstein files and to do it from an investigative and law enforcement perspective. We'll see you next time on Straight to the Point.
All right. Man, I thought that was an excellent interview that I wanted to share with you guys, you know what I'm saying, on our way out the door, as we are at an hour in. And yeah, man, in closing, this is just one of those situations where I have to say, man, this is a spiritual battle. If you can't see that at this point. When we battle, like I said earlier, not against flesh and blood, but against spiritual wickedness and evil in high places. This ain't about Democrat or Republican. This is wings of the same bird that are working together to cover for each other, that do things in satanic ways and rituals, and this stuff exists. And these are the people that are making decisions that run our politics, not just Trump. We talking about people that influence culture through Hollywood. We talking about people that create music that our children listen to, that are ran by corporations to perpetuate certain agendas to the youth. We talking about local government. You know what I'm saying? We talking about every facet of influence in our society. Something has to shake. Something got to be done. But hey, man, it's your boy Jay Taylor, Voices for the Voiceless. If you're doing this Epstein thing, once again, make sure you stay prayed up and put on the full armor of God. You know what I'm saying? Dealing with this situation. You know, you got to. You simply have to. But yeah, man, it's your boy Jay Taylor, Voices for the Voiceless. We love y'all. And until next time, we should see you soon. Peace and blessings.